Oh shit.
That's funny. Fun. Minimal faroche fun. Minimal faroche.
Murphy comes up.
I'm gonna get. This is Megan.
And Sue in the restricted section.
And today we are going to be doing an April wrap-up.
Yep.
Yes.
It is today the second to last day of April, right? Or is it the last day of April?
It is the second to last day of April.
But I'm pretty certain I'm not going to finish another book this month.
No, I don't think that I will either.
Except I am almost done with The Power of Habit, the audiobook, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I might finish it, but tomorrow we'll see.
If I get super ambitious, maybe I'll read The Girl with All the Gifts by the end of tomorrow, but I mean,
it's a bit of a long book.
It's a bit of a long book.
But we're drinking Ballast Point Grapefruit Sculpin.
Yes.
Which is an IPA with natural grapefruit flavors. Your label's all fucked up.
A crusty label.
These have been in the freezer, so they're very cold.
They're very cold.
They were not cold, so we put them in the freezer.
And now they are
And
extra
now they
cold.
are extremely cold.
So, you know.
It's slushy.
It is slushy.
Mmm.
It's pretty good.
I like
that.
Yeah.
You know what? This is how we should have made beer slushies.
Just put a beer
in the freezer.
Yeah, you can see the slush.
Yeah, it's like
it's good though.
It's pretty delicious.
Alright,
okay.
So I finished 4 books this month, which is about on
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I finished 5 this month, which is better. I think I only did 3 last month, so it's an improvement upon last month. I was in a little bit of a reading slump, so.
Why don't you start, since you have one more than me?
Okie doke. The first book I finished was Patient Zero by Jonathan Mayberry, and I read most of this last month, but I finished it in April. This is a zombie novel, because I love those. And this was a little bit more action-y than I usually like when it comes to zombie novels. I usually like them to be a little bit more horror. But I still really liked it. It was pretty fast-paced. It was interesting. Yeah, lots of ass-kicking. The main character in this is kind of gross, but he's an action book main character, so yeah. I think that, like, they're going to be kind of gross. It's a thing.
The first book I finished was White Trash, The 400-Year Untold History of Class in America by Nancy Eisenberg. And this is a non-fiction book about class in America, mostly in regards to white people, as the title would suggest. But it starts in, when the first European settlers came to America in the 1600s, and then goes up to when the book was published, which was a few years ago, 2016. So this was really interesting, I thought, which I'm not a history buff in that I hated history class. And I don't feel like I retained like a lot of the information from history classes I've taken, but I do enjoy learning about history on my own. And so I enjoyed reading this. I learned a lot of things that I didn't really know. And I think the overall point of the book is that there's kind of this perception, I think, that America is like the land of opportunity and everyone can succeed in America, and that's true to an extent. But this book talks about how from the very beginning there's always been a class system in America, and there's always been people trying to keep poor people down. So while it is true that if you are a lower, in a lower class, you can rise up.
Right.
But everything's working against you, basically. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And I talked about this during our live show this month, I guess, toward the beginning of this month. Because it was our restricted book club challenge, which was to read a book of social science So I talked about it in more depth there if you would like to see
If you would like
more.
to check that out. It was pretty epic how you just were like, and just like set it down and just talked about it. It was very, I liked it. I liked that. The second book that I finished was I Am Not a Slut by Leora Tannenbaum. I read this for our restricted book club, book about social science. So I talked about this more in our live show, but this is a book about slut shaming and how the internet and like kind of modern technology plays into slut shaming. And yeah, I liked this. There was a couple of things in here that I felt maybe were a little bit problematic, but overall I did agree with most of what she said. But when she starts talking a little bit about dress codes and stuff, I started to question some of the things she was saying, but otherwise I agreed with her overall point.
Yeah, and I forgot to say I gave White Trash 4 stars. My only kind of beef with it was that I feel like, especially toward the end when it was talking about modern times, I feel like she put a little bit too much of her own opinions into it. So I'd rather have, when I'm reading nonfiction, unless it's something like a memoir, something like that,
Right.
I would rather have it be
More unbiased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to know, because this was published before Donald Trump became president, so I would be interested to know what she thinks about that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think it is Hugh.
Oh, me.
Hugh.
The next book I finished is one that we both read, and it is
Yes.
The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And we buddy read this with Valentina Garcia. We'll link her channel below.
Definitely.
Go check her out. And this this is a very short book, but it took me a long time to read because I kind of it was just kind of like not the right time to read it for me, I think, and I kind of got stalled in the middle. But this is set in the 1940s, I believe. And it follows a few different characters, most of them children. And it really, it took me a long time to read.
Same.
And like I said, I kind of got in a slump in the middle of it.
Same.
But I do think it was a really good book.
Same. Like, I have been kind of holding off on sharing my thoughts about this just because it was just really intense and I didn't know how to
I feel like
talk
it
about
wasn't
it.
as intense as Beloved, though.
It wasn't, but it was maybe more complicated. I don't know. There was something about it that like made it difficult for me to talk about it.
Yeah. And this was Toni Morrison's first book that she had published, and the writing in it, like, she just writes so beautifully.
She does. Like, she's brilliant.
Yeah,
she is brilliant.
And this is a much more simple writing style than Beloved was, but it's still just, she can be saying something very simple and just say it in the most beautiful way.
She can.
Yeah, but it was, as Toni Morrison
Tends
books
to be.
tend to be, it was kind of emotionally
Ravaging.
difficult. And yeah, it has a lot to do with like internalized racism within the Black community. One of the main characters is a little girl who has much darker skin than a lot of the other people in her community, and so she gets picked on a lot. She's kind of considered to be ugly, and she just really wishes that she had blue eyes because that would be much more desirable.
Right. And so it talks about kind of her experience with interacting with white people
and the other Black people in her community.
Black people in her community. Yeah.
But it was a good book.
It was just intense. Yes, Toni Morrison is intense.
But I think we might be planning, we need to maybe talk about it more, but we had kind of discussed maybe reading through Toni Morrison's, what's the word I'm looking for? Body of work.
Body of work, her...
in order, along with Valentina. Because we buddy read Beloved with her as well. So we thought about, since we've read The Bluest Eye now, just going through the rest
all
of them.
Yeah. I think that
so
would
we
be
might
good.
do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Fun.
Well, I mean...
Toni Morrison's not the most fun
necessarily maybe
books to
say
read,
fun, but it would be a good experience.
Yeah.
So I was in a bit of a reading slump, because, like, I'm Not a Slut and then The Bluest Eye were both two kind of heavy reads, and I'm Not a Slut I had a lot of, like, issues with at certain points, and so it was kind of an emotionally involved experience for me, so I needed something really fun. So I read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, which was super fun. This was set in the 80s, and it's about two best friends, and one of them gets possessed by a demon, and so they have to exorcise the demon and save her, and it was way fun. So I'll probably buy it just to have it. But there's a cooler cover than this that looks like super 80s. This, I don't really care for this cover too much, but it's the only one the library had. So yeah, I really liked it.
And I gave The Bluest Eye 4 stars. I keep forgetting to say, I don't know if anyone cares that much about star ratings, but I gave it 4 stars. And I was also in a bit of a slump, so I picked up a book that I thought would be really fun, and that was Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy. And this is a middle grade novel about a girl who, her uncle dies and leaves her his estate, basically. And at his funeral, she meets this man named Skullduggery Pleasant, who she later discovers is a walking, talking skeleton detective.
That's awesome.
And, you know, she learns that magic exists, and, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I heard about this from Helen, from Capricious Helen. She loves this series, and if you're not watching Helen...
What are you doing with your life?
Go
watch her,
because
she's adorable and
yeah.
hilarious. Go watch her.
We'll link her below.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she loves this series, and so I decided to pick it up, and yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it. It was just a lot of fun. There's a lot of, the interaction between Skullduggery Pleasant and the main character, Stephanie. Is that her name? Stephanie? I think so. And Val. I mean, she has 2 names. Yeah, but I really enjoyed this. I wish it had been around when I was a kid, because I think I would have really loved it then, and I enjoyed it a lot, but it wasn't like a love for me.
Right.
So I gave it 4 stars. But what I was saying, and I never finished my sentence, I think, was that the interaction between Stephanie and Skullduggery was really funny. It's a very like sarcastic, witty banter that they have.
Oh, I like that.
Which is really nice, especially, you know, in a middle grade novel. It's just nice when an author doesn't assume kids are stupid. I guess,
insult the intelligence of their audience. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, and I might. I'm not gonna be like running out and getting the next book in the series, but I will probably pick it up at some point and read it. Yeah, but I would probably have really loved this when I was a kid, but this was published in, like, I think 2007.
Oh.
Which means I was a freshman in college.
Yes, same. It was the year after I graduated high school, so. Yeah. So lastly, the last book I read, so I went out, like I said, I was in kind of a reading slump, so I went to the library and looked for some horror novels or sci-fi novels that would get me out of my slump. So the first of those was My Best Friend's Exorcism. The second one was Feed by Mira Grant. This is a zombie novel, and no one was surprised. Mira Grant is actually Shannon McGuire. It's her pseudonym, and I really liked Every Heart a Doorway. I always forget the name of that. So I also really liked this. This was really cool, but this is the first book of a trilogy, and it's about kind of the aftermath of the zombie apocalypse, where life is continuing to go on, and they have it like relatively contained. There's still some areas that are uninhabitable where you just can't live, but humanity is continuing to go on, and blogs are kind of the main news source in this new reality. And so it's about these 3 people who run a blog, and they get this like really cool gig where they get to follow one of the presidential candidates and report on his campaign. And in the course of that, there's kind of this whole conspiracy that gets unraveled, and it's pretty cool. So it's like a zombie novel layered with other things.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, and zombies are just kind of like part of this world. So it's less about like, you know, hey, here's a zombie that's going to eat you. But it's more about like how life has adjusted to having zombies a part of it.
Yeah.
Right. So it was really good, and I'm going to probably buy this. I got this from the library, but I'll probably buy it and the rest of the series as well, because I really liked it.
Cool. The last book that I finished this month, actually just finished this morning.
Hey!
And it's Woe to Live On by Daniel Woodrell. And this is set in the Ozarks, which is where we live. Like Missouri and Kansas. And it's set during the Civil War. And it follows a man who is part of a Confederate... He's like a part of a group of bushwhackers. So it's not like a, you know, formal troop. They just kind of do their thing, but they're part of the Confederacy. And I read this for our restricted book club this month.
Which is a Western.
Yeah, our challenge is to read a Western. I said that wrong earlier. Our last meeting was last month, and I said whatever. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about our Westerns in our live show, which is on what day?
The second Sunday of May.
Oh, I was right then.
Yeah, you were right.
I'm all confused.
Calendar. So the second Sunday of May, which is the 13th.
So on the 13th, we will have a live show where I will discuss this book in more detail.
Yes.
But for now, I'll just say that I really enjoyed it. Like, kind of the more I think about it and the more, you know, the longer the more I think about it, the more I think I liked it. Because it's really interesting because, you know, like I said, the main character is a Confederate, and in the very first chapter, he does something really terrible, but then throughout the book, you really come to like him. Yeah, so this book, it took me a while to get used to the writing style too, because it's like kind of formal, which is interesting because it's being narrated by the main character. And so it's, I don't know, it's a little weird. It might be, I don't know how people spoke during the time of the Civil War. And also that he's the son of Dutch immigrants. And I think he was born in Europe.
Okay, so maybe that's why it was more formal, because he learned.
So yeah, maybe that's why. But yeah, it's just kind of formal in that there's not a lot of contractions, that kind of thing. So that was a little weird to get used to, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I like Daniel Woodrell. So far, I've read Winter's Bone and this now, and I like both. So. Yeah, but I'll talk, like I said, I'll talk about in more detail during our live show if you're interested in hearing more about it.
Yes.
Come join us.
Come join us. Yeah, join us. One of us. But yeah, so that's what we read in April.
Yep.
And I think that we both did pretty well.
Not too bad.
We both had some fairly sizable reads, I think.
True.
Yeah. And some tough ones. So I think we did a good job.
Yeah, and I like this Grapefruit Sculpin. It's
do
not
too.
like a favorite. I don't really...
No.
It's not something I'm gonna like rush to go out and buy again or anything,
but it's decent.
It's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's an IPA that I like, so... Pretty much any IPA with fruit in it I like, because I feel like the sweet kind of cancels out the bitter. So
I feel like soon enough you'll be on the IPA train.
I'm getting there. Like, I really am like working my way there, because like I used to I probably wouldn't have liked this. Yeah. But I feel like I'm easing into IPAs, and I'm going to be on that train soon. Yep. So IPAs are an acquired beer taste.
Yep. So, you know, if you for whatever reason want to like IPAs and don't yet,
start with the fruity ones.
With some fruity ones.
Yep.
There's a lot out right now because it's springtime.
It is. So like tropical IPAs are really, really good ones. Those are those, and like if you like dark beers usually, then black IPAs are a good starting
One of my
point.
favorite fruity IPAs is the Dogfish Head. I think it's called Blood Red Orange.
That one's good.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that one's really good.
It's a little strong though. I didn't realize how strong it was.
No, this is 7%.
Yeah, I don't remember how much the Blood Red Orange one is, but it's more than, I mean, most beers, like standard is like 5%.
5, yeah.
So this one's a little strong.
And I like beers that are in like the 4 to 5% range typically, because I like the taste of beer.
But you don't want to get hammered.
And I don't like getting drunk. So I want to drink a lot of beer and not get drunk.
Yeah. So that's our April wrap up. Let us know if you've read any of these books. Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah.
Let us know what you read in April. If
you
you
have
have
a good
any
month.
favorites,
Yeah.
tell us so maybe we can go check them out.
Definitely. And if you're not already subscribed to the restricted section, you should do so.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.